Welcome back to the Weekly Dive. I'm your host, Nate, and this is my show where I dive into my projects and other things I find interesting related to music. This week I'm going over my song Twisted, going to kind of talk about the arrangement and some other things like that. And instead of boring you with other random information, I'm just going to send it over to producer Nate to take it away. Thank you, Broadcast Nate. Today I'm going into my song Twisted, and I wanted to show you guys how I kind of look at arrangement and controlling the energy that is moving throughout the song. So what I want to start with is just showing you a little bit of the intro into the build and into the first drop. Now, if you haven't heard the song, please go check it out. But I'm going to start with a little bit of the build into the drop so you get where the song's going. Cool. And so here's a little bit of the intro. Kind of into the build. Cool. So you kind of see what's going on. So the reason I kind of want to talk about this is that this was kind of one of the first songs in a while, not in a while, but where I really kind of feel like I made conscious efforts to pay attention to what was going on with the energy throughout the song. Now, I don't 100% know if that translated all the way, but it made me feel good knowing that I was at least aware of those choices. And so I wanted to share those. So when I was going through this song, I was kind of listening to it into the drop, and this was before I kind of toned down this intro and added what feels like there's a filter on top. You can even see in the EQ that there isn't a whole lot of frequency going on up there. So the song felt like there was just nothing. I wasn't feeding into this bigger point in the song. And when I wasn't doing that, it wasn't impacting as much as I wanted to. You know, I was adding bigger risers, trying to make the build bigger, trying to do all this other stuff, when in reality, I needed to pay attention to just the flow of the song. You know, in a lot of dance songs, you kind of have a lot of stuff that it kind of is here, and then it uses the build to really build everything up, and then it hits for a bit, and it kind of dips down, and it kind of comes back up, and it hits again. You know, anything that kind of has a chorus section needs to kind of have that energy and flow. But one thing that, you know, this is pretty obvious in my opinion. I feel like it makes sense that the intro is less, and then, you know, it comes into the drop and then it's big. That's pretty easy relatively. I think most people kind of get that. The thing that I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to as much, and I largely speak for myself, is how to take the energy from the end of the first drop or the end of the first chorus, where it's been the biggest it's been so far, and now you're making the decision of taking essentially a lot of fun information away in order to create space for it to rebuild up. How do you go about that? How do you take some of those ideas, or how do you take some of those questions or concerns and turn them into ideas? So I first think of the end of the drop. So let's play a little bit of the end into kind of what I did here. So just to talk about it really quickly, the song largely revolves around that little kind of arpeggiated melody, right? And that's kind of what I started with a little bit of a loop. And like many other people, I am sort of a loop producer. I start with a loop and then I kind of expand it. So it's really easy to just, you know, right away, once you figure out the intro, the first build and the drop, to copy it and paste it over, right? That's kind of like, at least in my mind, a pretty standard way to just start creating the rest of the arrangement. And so a lot of times, and what I used to do when I would copy and paste is I really wouldn't change it a whole lot because I thought it was cool. Maybe there was a little different melody line or a different style, or it was a bridge section instead. But I didn't really know what I was doing when I was taking things in and out. And so in order to maintain the movement, I didn't want the drop to end and it just cut. I paid attention to having the bass line and things like that still be bouncing in a way so that it feels like there's still some movement and some energy there. So I also know at the end of a drop, like I said, it kind of does break away for a second, a little bit dramatically, but it was a choice to make it a little bit more dramatic. When I'm dancing, or I think about myself dancing to a song or something like that, by the end of a chorus section or drop, that's probably when I'm dancing the hardest, I usually end up feeling myself take a bit of a sigh. And so I kind of wanted to give people a second to go, and then still feel like there was something going on. Right as they finish that sigh, I'm filtering in the lead sound again. And so in order to keep that energy up, I couldn't rebuild the sound again like I did here. Like here, I think. I mean, I could, but in my mind, I was like, people have already heard this. They know exactly what they're expecting. They know where the sound goes. And so I wanted to give them the sound already. They already know it. It's not going to be a surprise to them, but I'll change the drums around a bit and kind of move some things around. I kind of built this one to feel a little bit more like a future bassy kind of build. So to kind of break this down a little bit, I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was going to keep the listener wanting to listen through the whole song. I think it's, especially like I said before, with how easy it is just to copy and paste things, that, most of the time when I hear a song that, I know what's going to happen in the rest of it. And while that is nice, obviously you want to know the second chorus so that, or, after the first chorus, you want to kind of start to be able to sing the second and then maybe kind of sing along to the third a little bit, even if you're listening to the first time. I want stuff that is going to surprise me a little bit more, at least for that first listen through the song. I want the whole thing to kind of keep me being like, oh, like it's not exactly the same thing, or like, oh, this is starting to sound different. Where's this going to go? That bit of tension, I think, exists a lot in the choice of how we use energy. And so for me to convey energy here, I chose to, again, it becomes a conglomerate of a bunch of different choices. But the first one was, if I take the energy all the way back and give them that same lead sound, that kind of plucky one at the beginning, instead of kind of giving them the new sound, I feel like it will create sort of too much energy is being taken away. And when I tried that and listened to it, that's exactly how I felt. And so when I brought in the lead sound again, it was like, oh, the lead sound's already coming back again? Are we getting up to something again? And so while the build is still about the same amount of time, if not almost longer than the original build, which is right about this length, then I think I'm doing something here. I think I'm holding them in this build state a little bit longer than it was before. So it's like it's almost holding the tension a little bit longer. It's like I kind of gave it to them a little easier here, but now I'm waiting a little bit longer, or I'm letting them feel like I'm waiting a little bit longer. And so what I end up doing is actually filtering out the lead sound at the end of the build. because I wanted to sort of hand it off to this other feeling for a second, this almost like not ethereal, but I really liked the way these synths sounded in this triplet form, and it allowed me to kind of give this cool, like, oh wow, this is actually a different idea. Like, what is this? Into rebuilding it into the original idea, sort of give people a contrast, something they could compare the original idea it makes, because it's so different, and you hear it, the lead a little bit in the back, it almost makes you want to hear the lead sound because it's not the lead sound, right? We give you this build that makes you think it's sort of going to be the same drop like before, but we change the expectations of the listener. And I think by doing that, I was trying to create more tension. You know, I maybe someone listening or watching this video can tell me if I did a poopy job on it. But I think it at least communicates that idea. And then when it builds up into into the final thing, it goes boom, here we are, like here's the final idea, all the instruments are back in, everything's having a good time. And originally I didn't have this second drop part, I just had the first drop there, and hearing it go into that, I was like, yeah, this is cool, but it doesn't really carry the same weight, it's kind of just the same feeling again. So by being able to drop it into something that I think is cool while also taking things away and rebuilding them, it almost resets the expectations of the listener, and in my mind, trying to keep them listening through the rest of the song. Now, if you've heard the song, you'll recognize that there's a little bit of a change of the melody and sort of the halftime part of the drop. See if I can find that really quickly. So that halftime part is kind of the second part of the drop, and then it kind of comes back into the upbeat tempo again. It's like, okay, cool, we're sitting here, we kind of came back, but it's like, that was kind of a variation. I'm letting people know that was kind of a variation on a theme, and then we're, okay, boom, we're here again. You know, we got this energy. And some other songs I work on, when I'm kind of going into the second verse or something, maybe the first verse I don't have a kick, second verse I have a kick. Second verse has a more interesting bass line or something else the listener can think of. Or pay attention to, or a different keyboard sound, or if you had guitar in the first half, try piano in the second verse. Think of small things you can change like that, that still keeps whatever is the main thing the focus. You know, if it's pop, it's still the vocal. If it's this, it's still kind of getting in the drop. But figure out some ways that maybe you can play with the traditional ways we do things. You know, double dropping something, or trying to make new ways to create different expectations. I think, and I'll put this on my name, you can at me, but I think we don't, with all the music that's been coming out lately, you know exactly what it is the moment you put it on. And I think to some people that's what they want, and to some people that is interesting, but that doesn't really push us anywhere, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm pushing boundaries or doing anything crazy. I don't think any of the things I did in the song were particularly unique. However, by understanding how energy is flowing and figuring out different ways you can manipulate points in the song, create different expectations, hold tension for some people, I think that is where we can have some things that are more unique and have some more things that are more exciting and are just dynamic, essentially. So explore that, try some different things in your songs, share some stuff with me. I'm happy to talk you guys through stuff. I know it's kind of a confusing topic, so it's, you know, I can talk about how energy feels like it's flowing in your songs, or let me know how energy feels like it's flowing in my songs. You know, is my stuff boring to listen to? Is it exciting to listen to? Is there too much going on? You know, I think those are all things that we learn as we put more things out. And I think by, you know, having done this song a week thing for 15 or 16 weeks now, it's really showed me how much I can learn and keep adding to what I'm doing just by working consistently. So hit me up if you want any help. And with that, I'm going to send it back to Broadcast Nate for the rest of the episode. Thanks, guys. Thank you, producer Nate. Well, this was my episode kind of focusing on energy and trying to communicate some of the things that I feel like aren't as clear or as communicated in a song. I think also understanding maybe some of the reasons why I made some of the choices and kind of how I create the ideas to make some of the choices, I think is really interesting. And so I hope you might be able to take some of these ideas into your own project. And please share with me some of the ideas you guys have too. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to get better. I know I'm not great. I know I'm not amazing. I just want to keep learning too, and I want to share those ideas as well. And that's kind of what this platform is for. So please reach out if you also want help or have other ideas or just want to talk about stuff. I also play video games, so if anybody is interested, let me know. Valorant is kind of where it's at right now. So please, please, please try to just work and write music. If you like doing it, just work on it. Just do it. It's a skill you got to work at. And that's the end of my rant right now. So enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and well, that's probably it. Bye, guys.